Hello and Assalamu alaikum. In this video, we'll be solving the Biology O Levels 5090 May June 2023 Paper 1 Variant 2. This is the latest paper for biology, and before we start, I would like to tell you the important information regarding this paper. You have 40 marks and 40 questions to attempt, so each MCQ has 1 mark. The total time limit is just 1 hour. So before we start, मैं आपको एक और convenient way बता दूँ to study for your O-level subject, which is our topical past papers. So if you have our topical past papers and you're stuck on a question from, let's say, topic cell structure, and you do not know how to solve that question. So if you have our topical past papers, near the starting where there is heading, you will see a QR code. If you scan that QR code, you will be headed to a playlist on YouTube where we simultaneously solve the past papers with explanations of it. So, this is a great way to enhance your concepts. Having said all this, let's begin with our paper.
Question number one. How permeable are the cell wall and the cell membrane in a plant cell? So this is a very easy MCQ and you would definitely know the answer. Cell wall जो होती है वो fully permeable होती है in the plant cell. So either A or B can be the options. But cell membrane is partially permeable. That means it only allows small molecules या फिर water molecule to pass in and out. It doesn't allow bigger molecules. तो आप इसको as a barrier या filter समझ सकते हैं जो cell use करता है to only allow certain substances to pass in and out. And it is necessary to balance the environments inside the cell. So B is the correct option. Question number two. The diagram shows an arthropod. Using the keyword correctly identifies the arthropod in the picture. One has wings. We can see it has two wings. So it means we have to go to number two. Has two body parts. It doesn't have two body parts. You can see इसका head है, फिर thorax है, and this is abdomen. So it has three body parts, and we have to go to number three. Has six legs? Yes. One, two, three, four, five, six. So C is the correct option. Question number three. Which statements about diffusion are correct? Molecules move from a higher to a lower concentration. This is correct because diffusion follows the concentration gradient, which means molecules move from a higher to a lower concentration. Only occurs within living system. This isn't true because आप इसको experiment कर सकते हैं घर में. If you spray perfume at one side of your room and after some time you come inside the room, तो आप देखेंगे कि all over the room the smell spreads. Or if you take a beaker and add some chemical in it and mix it, आप देखेंगे कि जहाँ पे आपने ऐड किया वहाँ पे initially concentration ज़्यादा होने की वजह से कलर भी ज़्यादा होगा. But as you stir it, you will see it forms a homogeneous solution और पूरी बीकर में आपको सेम कलर मिलेगा. That means not only living system but even in non-living system diffusion is there. Rate slows down as the temperature increases. This is false. Because temperature के increase होने से ही तो particles को kinetic energy मिलती है and they can move faster, increasing the rate. So B is the correct option. Question number four. Some ways in which molecules may move into and out of the cells are listed. Number one, molecules move from a higher concentration to a lower concentration, so this is definitely diffusion. Number two, molecules move from a lower concentration to a higher concentration. So this is against the concentration gradient. So this has to be active transport. Number three, molecules move from a higher concentration to a lower concentration across a partially permeable membrane. So you should know कि osmosis में हमेशा partially permeable membrane present होनी चाहिए, but it is not necessary for diffusion. So this is osmosis. So which statement is correct? अब हम easily identify कर सकते हैं because we know कि सिर्फ 2 में active transport है. So D is the right option. And you also have to check the other statement which is true. Number 3 is osmosis. Question number 5. Four tests were carried out on a solution containing biological molecules. The table shows the results of the test. So Burette test was done and Benedict's test was done. Burette is done for protein and Benedict's is done for reducing sugar. So which conclusion can be drawn from these results? जब भी आपने कंक्लूजन निकालनी हो रिजल्ट से आपको पता होना चाहिए कि इनिशियल कलर क्या था विच इज ऑफ द सॉल्यूशन जो आप ऐड कर रहे होते हैं, वही इनिशियल कलर होता है. एंड द फाइनल कलर इज आफ्टर यू परफॉर्म द डेडिकेटेड स्टेप्स फॉर दैट टेस्ट. जो आप एंड पे एक कलर पॉइंट रीच करते हैं, दैट इज योर फाइनल एंड रिजल्ट ऑफ द टेस्ट. सो इस केस में अगर आप देखें, दिस इज फॉर बेनेडिक्ट सोल्यूशन. आप देख सकते हैं कि इनिशियली कलर ब्लू है सोल्यूशन का, और उसमें 0% रिड्यूसिंग शुगर प्रेजेंट है. पर एज यू मूव ऑन, आप देख रहे हैं कलर इंटेंसिटी इंक्रीज हो रही है, इंडिकेटिंग हायर कॉन्सेंट्रेशन रेंजेस. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, अगर ब्लू से ग्रीन टर्न होगा, दैट मीन्स देयर इज अ लाइट ट्रेस ऑफ any reducing sugar present. If it turns into yellow, that means low concentration में वो reducing sugar present है. And you can see finally brick red color आ जाता है from blue if the higher concentration of the reducing sugar is present. Similarly, for burette test, initially blue color होता है solution का, light blue सा, and it turns into purple if the test is positive, which means कि food sample में वो biological molecule present था, protein present थी उसमें. So now we can see कि Buret test में तो purple solution आ गया, that means protein is present. But in Benedict's test solution blue ही रही, that means no reducing sugar was present. So in this case कोई glucose नहीं थी, and the answer is A. Next question. Question number 6. The graph shows the concentration of maltose produced, this is the product, when amylase digests starch at different pH values. So this is a graph of concentration against pH, showing how pH uh, will affect the concentration. So if you see from this starting to end, आप कोई भी set of values imagine कर सकते हैं. It's not necessary, but just for you to imagine, I have written a set of values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. आपने देखना है कि किस pH पे सबसे ज़्यादा maximum concentration produce हुई है. This is the first thing you have to do. So pH ये थी, and you can see there is this peak. पीक इंडिकेट करती है कि सबसे ज़्यादा ऑप्टिमम पीएच ये थी फॉर द एंजाइम टू वर्क ऑन, एंड more product was formed. That means more maltose was produced and concentration is increased. And यही highest concentration be of maltose. Now they're asking you what explains the shape of the graph between point X and point Y. So between these 2 points, what does the shape of the graph indicate you? You can see कि higher pH पर the enzyme activity is becoming slow and maltose concentration is decreasing. It is not becoming entirely zero, it is decreasing. So if it is decreasing, that means the shape of the active site of the enzyme is changing and the substrate is not fitting inside well. तभी concentration decrease हो रही है, because pH increase करते हैं तो आपको पता है कि enzyme denature होता है, but it is not completely denatured as it has said in option A. Why? Because then अगर completely denature हो जाएगा enzyme, then the activity would be zero, but here you can see there is still maltose being produced but at a lower concentration. So option A will be ruled out. And similarly, B and D be ruled out हो जाएंगे options. Why? Because kinetic energy and pH don't have a relation between them. And we are entirely just discussing about pH, not kinetic energy. Increasing or decreasing the kinetic energy is not affecting the pH or the enzyme molecules. So B and D will be ruled out. C is the correct answer because the active site is getting changed of the enzyme. The substrate is not fitting well and the concentration of the product will be decreased. Number 7. The diagram shows a section through part of a leaf from a dicot plant which cells carry out photosynthesis. We know the cells that can carry out photosynthesis must have chloroplast in them because chloroplast has chlorophyll, which is the main site of photosynthesis in the plant. So जो हमें image देखते ही पता चल रहा है, that is 2, 3 and 4 have chloroplast. We can see from the dark black spots shown. But what are they? They are palisade mesophyll cells, number 3 spongy mesophyll, and number 4 is guard cells. So they are the main sites of photosynthesis in the plant because they contain chloroplast. So C is the correct answer. Question 8. Which row shows why plants need magnesium ions and nitrate ions? So magnesium ions is responsible to make chlorophyll in the plant. So either C and D can be the answer. Nitrate ions are responsible to make amino acids, which makes protein for the plant, which is necessary for the growth. So D is the correct option. Cellulose cannot be the right answer because this is a carbohydrate. It does not contain the nitrogen element in it. It only has carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. The nitrate ions are responsible to make amino acids, which is responsible to make protein, and that is necessary for the plant to grow. So D is the correct option.
Question number 10. A herbaceous plant growing in a nutrient solution is placed in a well-lit container. Humid air is passed through the container. So this is a diagram showing you the section through the part of the plant. So this is xylem, and you can remember it because it has a shape like X. So this is xylem, and this is phloem, the outside one. This is tissue S is xylem, tissue R is phloem. Speeds of the movement of the fluids in tissues R and S are measured. The humid air is then replaced by dry air. So this is important. And the speeds of movement of the fluids are measured again. So if they said that the humid air is replaced by dry air, that means there will be more transpiration. Because if this is a leaf and you have dry air outside, that means the water vapors from the leaves will evaporate, which is called transpiration. So there will be a great increased upward movement of the water. So in tissue S, there will be greatly increased upward movement. So the only option that says is D. And in phloem, there will be little change. All the other options are not valid.
Question number 11. Some of the nutrients in sweet potatoes are listed: calcium, fiber, iron, and vitamin C. Which nutrient will help to prevent each disease? So we know scurvy is caused by the deficiency of vitamin C, that means number 4. So either A or B can be the answer. Rickets is developed when you have the deficiency of calcium or vitamin D. So this is how a person normally looks like with normal legs, and this is how the person who has been affected by rickets, his legs look like this. The bones get more soft and malleable. So this is 1. So automatically the answer is A. But how is anemia 3? Because it is caused by the deficiency of iron. Question number 12. Four of the organs of the alimentary canal are listed: colon, duodenum, esophagus, stomach. Which sequence shows the order in which food passes through these organs? So this is very easy. Just visualize the alimentary canal in your mind and you will be able to answer. So firstly esophagus, then stomach, then duodenum, then colon. So the answer is C. Question number 13. A person who has coeliac disease has flattened villi in their ileum. If a person with coeliac disease eats the same quantity and types of food as a disease free person, they will have a lower level of glucose in their hepatic portal vein. So, which row explains this? Firstly, उन्होंने आपको क्वेश्चन में ही आंसर का हिंट दे दिया है that it has flattened villi. This is how a healthy person's a disease free person's villi look like. They're elongated and the surface area is greater. But if you see the person who has been affected by the disease, you can see that the surface area is reduced of its villi. So that means the surface area reduced options are only A and C. So you got the hint from here. So either A or either C. Now capillaries do not absorb the glucose molecules. They have not mentioned that in the question itself. And also if you see, कैपिलरीज तो एक हेल्दी पर्सन में भी नजर आ रही हैं, यू कैन सी देम एंड यू कैन ऑल्सो सी इन द पर्सन हु हैज बीन अफेक्टेड. So they are not, actually affecting in absorbing the glucose molecules. So C is the option.
Question number 14. Which process does not result in an overall loss of energy from the organism? Photosynthesis in a green plant? Yes, this does not result in overall loss of energy because the light energy is converted into chemical energy. And the energy which is not going to be used is stored as glucose, so that can be used later by the plant for any process that it needs. Respiration in an animal. Now, this has two perspectives. It does release energy in the body, but it gets used up as well, because respiration is not just one stage process. There are multiple stages going on in respiration as well. Temperature control in humans. Now you can take the example of sweating. If you have been in hot environment and you just came to sit down, so you have sweating all over, or if you have done a vigorous exercise. So to cool down your body, that heat energy from your body must be removed, and that is done by sweating. So this can't be the option as well. The germination of seeds. Now when the seeds grow, they do need energy, but there is breakdown of certain chemicals as well, and that releases heat energy. Question 15. When yeast cells respire anaerobically, that means without the presence of oxygen, which substance is used and which substances are produced? So, this is a very easy question. You just have to know the equation for the anaerobic respiration. So, glucose gets breakdown without the presence of oxygen into ethanol and carbon dioxide. That means glucose is used, sugar is used, and alcohol and carbon dioxide is produced. So, C. Question 16. Which word equation represents aerobic respiration? So this is very simple. Glucose gets breakdown in the presence of oxygen and CO2 and water is produced. So C. Question number 17. Which chamber of the heart has the thickest muscular walls? Now there are four chambers: right atrium, right ventricle and left atrium. तो आप देख सकते हैं कि left ventricle has the thickest muscular wall. Why? Because aorta arises from that. And aorta is supposed to pump blood all around your body. And you know that arteries branch from the aorta. So it's definitely left ventricle. Question 18. The diagram shows the human circulatory system. At which point is the pressure of the blood circulating through the blood vessels the highest? So we know this is the right ventricle out of which the aorta arises. And we know that it has a thick muscular wall. That means it can exert a greater pressure and the blood will flow with a great pressure system to the rest of the body, because aorta is responsible to circulate the blood to the rest of the body. So it's A. Okay, question number 19. Which diagram describes the role of a mosquito and plasmodium in the disease malaria? So, malaria is a disease that is caused by the transmission of plasmodium parasite through the bite of the infected female Anopheles mosquitoes. So, they have given you pathogen, vector, and parasite. So you've got to know that Plasmodium is a parasite, and because it spreads the disease malaria, it is also a pathogen, because pathogen is any microorganism that spreads the disease. So we have to look the options where Plasmodium is in pathogen and parasite both, and that is option C. Female Anopheles mosquitoes are the vectors responsible for transmitting malaria. So when the infected mosquito bites a human, it injects the Plasmodium parasite along with its saliva into the bloodstream. So vector is anything that just helps the disease to transmit to another person or another species. So in this case, female mosquitoes, Anopheles mosquitoes are the vectors. Question number 20. The bar chart shows the percentage of women who had babies with low birth weight. Some of these women were smokers and some were non smokers. So, this is a bar chart over here, and they're comparing the smokers with the non smokers that gave birth to low birth weight babies. So, what is shown by the bar chart? Now, I have a scale from 0 to 30, तो मैं इस पे 10 के difference से I can make my own scale, and this will provide me the reference as well, and it will be basically easier to know. So A, more women smoke during pregnancy than do not. Now this cannot be the answer. Why? Because we do not have any claim on that. We do not know whether they were smoking during pregnancy or was it before that. So that's not mentioned in the entire question, and it cannot be the answer. By the way, the smokers have 15, because it's between 10 and 20, so it is 15% of women who were smokers gave birth to low birth weight babies, and the non smokers were 10%. So, option B, smoking in pregnancy increases the risk of low birth weight. This can be an answer, because we get that if we look at the bar chart, we can see that the women who were smokers had an increased risk of giving low birth weight babies. Option C, smoking is bad for the health of a pregnant woman. We do not have the claim of that. We do not see that in the entire question, and even with the provided bar chart, we cannot see that the discussion of the health of a pregnant woman is being done or it's being compared. Option D, women whose babies have low birth weight are smokers. Again, this is not true because even the women who were non smokers had 10% of chance of giving the babies with low birth weight. So this is wrong as well. Question number 21. Which disease might be treated successfully with an antibiotic? So you should know that antibiotic does not work on viruses. It only works on the bacteria. The bacterial infection causing bacteria, it only works on them. So option A, anemia, it is an deficiency of iron. So it can only be treated by taking vitamin B12 supplements or eating rich diet that has iron in it, the foods that have iron in it, you consume that. B is cholera, that is caused by bacteria. HIV is caused by a virus. So I told you earlier that antibiotic cannot treat a viral infection. D is malaria. Malaria is caused by protoctist and they are treated by antiprotoctistal medicines. They cannot be treated with an antibiotic. So option B. So, question number 22. When babies are born, they have some passive immunity. Which conditions are needed for the passive immunity to develop? So, this paragraph over here will tell us about why passive immunity is important for the fetus and how it is actually given to the fetus, what conditions are needed. So, passive immunity in newborns occurs when the antibodies are transferred from the mother to the fetus through the placenta during pregnancy. So, we see option A has placenta in it, but we also need to know why is it important because it provides temporary protection to the newborn against certain diseases until the baby's immune system becomes more mature and capable of producing its own antibodies. So option A is correct. But why are the other options not correct? Because in B, sterile environment has no direct relation with passive immunity. We have not read anywhere that if there is a sterile environment, then only passive immunity is needed. So it's not a condition. C, the baby has not been yet vaccinated or exposed to disease. This is true. But again, it is not directly related to the statement which says conditions are needed for passive immunity to develop. Passive immunity is only developed when antibodies are transferred from the mother to the fetus through the placenta during pregnancy. So, this is right as well. The mother's diet is good enough for the baby to produce its own antibodies. So, this is not dependent on the mother's diet. Passive immunity is not dependent on that. The only thing that matters is that there is transfer of antibodies from the mother to the fetus through the placenta. So the most appropriate option is A. So 23. In which structure is there a fluid with a low concentration of urea? So if you see, this is the aorta, and with that you see there is renal artery. And here you see, because this is going up, that means it's going back, and this is coming. So renal artery basically आप इसको यहाँ से भी याद कर सकते हैं. Renal artery basically brings the blood, the unfiltered blood, and that is filtered in the kidney by nephrons. And in this arrow indicates that the purified blood is going back from the kidney. It's exiting the kidney. So that is done by renal vein. This is the ureter and this is the bladder. So what happens is that the blood basically enters by renal artery into the kidney, and now it's not purified blood because it's coming directly. So it is unpurified, and the nephrons present inside the kidneys purify it and eliminate the waste out of it, which includes urea, which is then excreted by urination. So They have asked you in which structure is there a fluid with a low concentration of urea. So it is renal vein because renal vein exits the kidney, but it has purified blood in it because it has been purified by the nephrons. The waste material, such as urea or any other waste material, is released by urine. And how that goes is nephrons release that, and through ureter, it is passed on to bladder where it is stored before excretion. So the purified blood does not contain any waste material and it is taken by the renal vein back. So it is A. Question number 24. A person blinks when an insect flies into their eye. What explains this reflex action? So आप A और B को immediately rule out कर देंगे because they have shown the effector response. At the start of the sequence, they have shown the muscles in the eyelid cause the eye to blink. How can it happen before the receptors and impulses and everything? So they have been ruled out. So in C and D, you have to choose the correct one. So it says receptor cells in the retina detect the insect and receptor cells in the cornea detect the insect. So you have to read the statement carefully. It says into their eye. So just imagine if something just quickly hits your eye, it's going to hit the outermost corner, which is the cornea in anyone's eyes. Retina comes later. Firstly, you have the outermost layer, which is the cornea. So it's going to hit directly into that. That's one way you can identify out of C and D which option was right. And another way is that you can see they write the sequence of relay to sensory to motor. And in this, they write from sensory to relay to motor. So the correct is sensory, relay, and motor. That's how the sequence follows. So D is the right option. Question number 25. The graph shows the changes in the diameter of a person's pupils while outside on a sunny day. So, if they have told you it's a sunny day, that means the sun is bright and the sunlight is there. That means the light intensity is high. At which time did the person take off their sunglasses? So, initially, the person was wearing sunglasses which protected his eyes from the bright, high light intensity of the sun. But as soon as they take off their sunglasses, the light is going to hit the retina and the pupils are going to constrict. So, in the graph, where you see immediately an immediate drop in the diameter of pupils, constrict means limiting, that means less diameter. So, which option you see that justifies this is C because immediately the diameter of pupils will constrict as soon as you take off the sunglasses.
Number 26. The graph shows the blood glucose concentration for a person in the hours after eating breakfast at 7. Which level of blood glucose concentration is approximately the set point? So, you just imagine in this example that you had eaten your breakfast, you had your cereal, bread, fruit, whatever, and your glucose level rised, which is obvious because you were fasting the whole time. While you were sleeping, you didn't have anything, so you were fasting during that time. So there will be a sudden spike as soon as you eat anything that is rich in carbs or in sugars. And then to this response, body will release insulin to lower down your blood glucose level. So there will be a fall. There was a spike once you consume the food, and there will be a fall once insulin gets released and your body glucose level is regulated. So during this time, during the spike and the fall, there is a point called the set point or the stabilization point where the glucose is being leveled, it's being stabilized. That means it will not change after that. So, what can that be? Approximately, you have to give your answer because it's a graph. So, many people will choose the options, but they might be really close to each other. So, what can be the right option? It can be 70, it can be 80, or 100 because they are the most normal ranges. 120 is far beyond, so we will not consider that. So, just rule that option out. A 70. 70 can also be the case, but remember that once you have consumed the food, it might not be able to reach to the stabilization point that quick. You cannot reach 70 is like lower than 80 or 100, so you cannot reach it that quick. However, 80 seems to be a normal range between 70 and 100 because their normal range is 100 is a slight above but normal range. So 80 is like between them, so it can be the answer, and it's where the graph stabilizes as well. So if we discuss option 100, just like I said, it's also between the range but a bit high. So what you can expect is that you can see that 100 में भी अगर आपका blood glucose rise कर गया and if it's back to the stabilizing point, you can see कि 80 पर फिर भी ज़्यादा stabilization है than 100. So that can also be the option, but again we have to see what can approximately be the set point. So again you would favor 80. So 120 is too much again, so that cannot be an option. So you just rule out A, C, and D, and you get to the point 80. Question number 27. Which hormone causes blood glucose concentration to be lowered? So we just discussed in question number 6. It is insulin, the hormone. Question number 28. Which statement about auxin is correct? So auxin is plant growth hormone. Option A, auxin is equally distributed in the plant in response to gravity and light. It is not equally distributed, it is just influenced or affected by these factors. So, in case you're wondering what happens in response to light, it influences the movement and distribution of auxins. So, auxins start to accumulate at the shaded site of the plant, and it leads to cell elongation from that site, and it makes the plant bend towards the light source. So it grows the plant. This is phototropism. And in gravity, what happens is that when the roots grow, the organs start to accumulate downwards because the roots grow towards gravity. So the auxins accumulate there, and then the cells are elongated, and then downwards growth of the plant is there. Roots grow. So option B says inhibits. That's incorrect because we just discussed it doesn't inhibit, but it promotes cell elongation. So option A and B are incorrect. Option C, auxin is made in the plant stem. So this is wrong as well. It is made in the root and shoot tip. So this is the correct option. So question number 29. The diagram shows some stages in cell division in a fruit fly. So this bracket indicates mitosis till cell Y, and then meiosis starts from Y to Z. Cell X contains 8 chromosomes. How many chromosomes are in cell Y and cell Z? So this is very easy. You know that in mitosis the chromosome number doesn't change. So if cell X has 8, cell Y would have 8 too. So either C or D. Now, but in meiosis, the daughter cells have half the number of chromosomes than in parent. So that means 4 is the right option, C. Question number 30. Which statement applies to organisms that reproduce asexually? So, option A, offspring always grow to the same height. That's not necessary because environmental factors play a role too, such as the nitrate ions, magnesium, or the exposure to light. So, it's not necessary. They are genetically identical. Yes, this is true. Organisms only reproduce asexually during extreme conditions. That's not a necessary requirement, and reproduction happens by the fusion of diploid nuclei. That's only in meiosis, not in asexual or mitosis reproduction. Question 31. What is the function of sepals of the most flowers? So, if this is a flower, the sepal would be this green part you see. So it does not attract insects because that is the job of the petals. They are beautifully colored and they have scent. So that's not the job of the sepal or the function. To produce pollen, that is done by anther. To receive the pollen, that is done by stigma. So its job is to only protect the flower buds. That means flowers when they're growing.
Question number 32. Which diagram matches the hormone with their functions in preparation for pregnancy? So you should know the function of each hormone that is involved in the preparation for pregnancy. So firstly, FSH, it stimulates the growth and development of follicles in the ovaries. So we see only in option B FSH is matching to its correct function. In the rest of the options you do not see that. So you know B is the answer, but you should also know what other hormones do. So the luteinizing hormone or the LH hormone triggers ovulation. It releases the mature egg from the ovarian follicle. So it is matched to the stimulation of ovary to release an egg. Estrogen repairs the lining of uterus following menstruation. So if there has been no fertilization, the estrogen hormone will repair the lining of the uterus at the end of the menses. Progesterone helps maintain the thickened uterine lining by further developing and supporting it with a network of blood vessels and glands. So it helps maintain the thickened lining of the uterus so that the embryo can fit inside. So B is the correct option.
Question number 33. Which row describes the exchange of substances at the placenta? So, if you check the substances that pass from the mother to fetus, they cannot be the waste products or other unuseful substances. There have to be some useful substances that help the fetus to grow and also support the fetus's function because fetus does not have lungs or other body parts yet. So if you see option A and B, it has the waste materials, carbon dioxide, these alcohol, nicotine, which are unuseful substances for the fetus. So these options will be ruled out. If you check option C, it has urea. Urea is a waste product. Why would it pass from the mother to the fetus if it is an unuseful substance? So option C is also ruled out. But if you see option D, you have oxygen, glucose, and antibodies. So these are some useful substances. And carbon dioxide and urea passes from the fetus to the mother. So this is correct because fetus does not have lungs. So these waste materials have to pass across the placenta and pass from the fetus to the mother because mother's lungs and kidneys will remove these waste products. Question number 34. In a strand of DNA containing 100 nucleotide pairs, 46 nucleotides contain the base A. Here you should remember the base pairing rule, which means adenine will always form a pair with thymine and guanine will always form a pair with cytosine. So if 46 nucleotides are present in base A, 46 should be also present with T. So that means B is the answer because they have to be equal.
Question number 35. Two brothers had different blood groups. One was blood group A and the other was blood group B. What can be concluded about their parents' blood group genotypes? Now, I have written the different blood groups of brothers. This is for blood group A and this is for blood group B. They're asking you to find out about their parents' blood group genotypes. So, I have written the possible genotypes of the parents because only from these possible genotypes you can get this blood group. Now, option A says both of the parents must be heterozygous. This isn't true because you see, these are same alleles, they're homozygous. So it's not necessary because it says must be. So this cannot be the answer. Similarly, it says both of the parents must be homozygous. It's not a condition to follow, it's not necessary. One hetero, one homo, can also produce the these blood groups. So it's not necessary that they have to be because it says must be. So you have to reread the statement. One parent at least must be heterozygous. Yes, this can be the answer. But let's look at option D as well. One parent at least must be homozygous. No, again, this is not a condition to follow. So option C is the answer. Question number 36. The diagram shows a fermenter that is used to grow the fungus Penicillium to produce penicillin. What is the function of the outer water jacket? So I have written here the function that an external water jacket surrounds the whole fermenter. So not only a side, it supports the whole fermenter. and it can be used to absorb excess heat and help maintain a constant temperature. Because you see, there are so many microorganisms here, fungus is used, they respire and everything. So all that heat energy is being released out. So to maintain a constant temperature and absorb excess heat, an outer water jacket is used. These promote maximum growth. So you see, option C says at a constant temperature. Question number 37. The diagram shows four ecological pyramids. In a food chain, grass is eaten by cows. The cows have insects living on their skin. The insects are eaten by birds. Which is the pyramid of biomass and which is the pyramid of numbers in this food chain? So, to find the pyramid of biomass, this is a very easy thing that you just need to look the pyramid that has a triangular shape. So you can see that in number 1, but you cannot see that in others. So proper triangular shape is only formed by 1, so it can either be A or B. These options are ruled out. Now, this is the food chain that they're talking about in the question, that there were grass plants and then cows ate them, and then cows had insects living on their skin, which were eaten by the birds. So, if we just assume that there were 100 grass plants and there were 10 cows who were eating them, and always remember that parasites would have an increased number. Whenever you're talking about parasites, they always have an increased number. So, in this case, they have talked about insects. So we can assume that there must be around 50. And then they are eaten by birds. So we can assume that it must be 5. Now, according to this, if you look which pyramid of numbers can show that, remember, pyramid of numbers is a bit, weird and different. Look how they are shaped. So it's like they are shaped irregularly. They're not in one single triangular shape or something. They're just different from each other. So if you look, grass is 100. So if we look at option number 3, if we say that this is 100 and then we say cows are 10. Now these cannot be the options, because in number 4 that 100 is shown by a very small area, and if we check with 2, or when we have to show for the cows, number 10 is shown a lot. So these cannot be the answers. So this is 10, then again 50 is much, and then there is number 5. So we see this fits very accordingly with option number 3, so it can be option number A. Question number 38. The diagram shows a simplified nitrogen cycle. Which process in the cycle happens at stage X? Now this is stage X, this arrow. You should remember that whenever the nitrogen gas in the atmosphere makes compounds with nitrogen in plants, it's always nitrogen fixation. But whenever it's directly the arrows coming from nitrogen gas in the atmosphere, it's always nitrogen fixation, whether it's done by lightning, which is the source of nitrogen, or whether it's done by nitrogen fixing bacteria. So it's option C. Question number 39. Which change would lead to an increase in biodiversity in an area? So, biodiversity is the variety of species living in an area. So, if we build a large number of blocks of family dwellings in a city, you cannot build a lot of buildings that would affect a lot of species living there. So, this is wrong. B. Increasing the number of cows in a pedigree herd. Pedigree herd, this is not a farm, this is an area. So you cannot increase the number of cows there. So B is wrong as well. C. Replacing a forest with a large palm oil plantation. Now, if you replace the forest and you plant only one type of species, it would really affect the food chains and everything. So biodiversity would decrease by these factors. This is wrong. So D is the answer, because stopping fishing in an area of sea for several hours. So if you stop fishing, the fishes can survive and reproduce. So their food chain will go for long, they will survive and everything. They will reproduce. Question number 40. Areas of tropical rainforest are often cut down and cleared. After cutting down the trees, the areas are normally burned. What are the effects of these activities? So, whenever you burn, there is obviously going to be an increase in carbon dioxide, so C or D. When you cut down the trees, the number and variety of species will decrease. That's what we talked here as well in question number 39. So C is the answer. And even the soil stability, if you cut down all the trees, you wash them out, then the soil stability will decrease and all over the environment will be affected.